What's going on, everybody? You're watching New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. The NBA draft is just a couple days away. And as of now, the New York Knicks do not have a pick in the NBA draft. They traded their first-round pick in that deal for Josh Hart, and they do not have a second-round pick. But there are rumors swirling that the Knicks could look to trade into the later part of that first round. We've talked about a potential Obi Toppin swap to the Pacers for one of their late first-round picks. And now there's rumors coming out that the Knicks could potentially trade Evan Fournier to the Spurs for one of their second-round picks. So in today's show, we're going to talk about 6 guys that I think the Knicks could trade up for in the later ends of that first round or in the second round. And then we have 10 players that the Knicks have worked out. Most of those guys are UDFAs and late second-round draft targets. I wanted to bring on a familiar face, though, to the program. My guy, Nick Roloff. Rolly was doing a whole bunch of watch parties for us this year, and he's really been killing it with our NBA draft coverage. Rolly, big day, just a couple days away. How are we feeling about the draft?
Yeah, 3 days away, and I couldn't be more excited. I know a lot of Knicks fans might hate me for how the season played out, but it's okay. Hopefully
it's in the past.
Hopefully we can all be friends in this offseason here, but the draft is 3 days away. I've talked with you, Marsh. I've talked with Seeps about how deep this draft class is, so I really think there is a lot of talent to be found in this draft. So trading into a late first might be too much, but finding a mid-second round pick, I think the Knicks would be able to find a player that would be able to impact their team this upcoming year and help them maybe advance farther and farther in the NBA playoffs.
And I think if the idea of, we know the Knicks want to make a trade for a star, unlike the Heat could do with Bradley Beal, big win for the Knicks right there. But I think the Knicks want to make a trade, and a way to kind of lengthen that rotation is trading into the second round. There's a couple of guys that I guess we'd call them Knicks replacements in this video, that if they traded some of those young guys away.
Yeah, we can get to it in a little bit, but there are some players on our list that we're looking through today that I have compared to current Knicks players, and I did this without knowing that Marsh was going to have me on to talk about them, so it ironically just came out that way.
All righty, let's get into it. But first, make sure you guys go ahead and share this video, because with the NBA draft a couple days away, that means NBA free agency is like a week and a half away, and we want to get the word out about New York Knicks now. So go below the video, click share. Share this video to your friends, to Twitter, to Facebook, wherever you want to share it. And if we get more than 52 shares on this video, which is the most we've gotten on a video in the past month, I'm going to start the next show with a beer shot fun, one of our patented signature moves that we do on the channel. So if you could share this video, and if you share it to Twitter, tag me at @MarshallGreen_, and we'll give you a retweet and follow back. Rolly, the first guy that we have on this list is the scoring defensive guard, Marcus Sasser, out of the University of Houston. 6'1", 196 pounds, 6'7" wingspan. Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer has him ranked as the 42nd player in this draft, and he says he is a spark plug guard who plays hard on defense. What do you think of Marcus Sasser and potentially the fit with the New York Knicks?
Yeah, I think Sasser can really be a solid backup guard coming off the bench for the Knicks, and you see his stats on screen here. He's an efficient scorer of the basketball and did a lot for the Houston Cougars team, who was a #1 seed in March Madness. You mentioned O'Connor has him as his 42nd ranked prospect. I'm a little bit more bullish on him. I have him as my 32nd ranked prospect. I really like his ability to shoot the three, and he is a gritty player. He grinds. He will get up in your grill defensively. He'll cause problems for opposing point guards. He is such a pesky defender. I almost compare him to Patrick Beverley on defense, the way he can guard a little bit above his size. And a 6'1" player having a 6'7" wingspan is pretty significant. His length shows, and he's able to hit that outside shot, 1.6 steals per game. Sasser, I think, would be a really, really good fit off the bench for New York. Maybe that is because they move off IQ or something like that, but I think he could really play really well in that Knicks system.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit better scorer than some people give him credit for. This past year, he had 13 games of more than 20-plus points. He shot the three-pointer at a 38% clip, and he got up almost 7 three-pointers per night. And last year, he shot 8.6 three-pointers a night and connected on 43.7 of those. He also has that in-between game, got a nice little floater. He can score from the mid-range. I honestly compare him to a little bit of Emmanuel Quickley. He's got some of that Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickley in there, a little bit shorter than those guys at 6'1". And you might be saying, if the stats are so good, he's a good defender, good shooter, why is he ranked so low? It's because he's going to be 23 years old in the month of September. And that could be looked at a couple of different ways, right? It took him a long time to develop. We know the NBA really values these 20, 19, 18-year-olds. But I think for my standpoint here, Rolly, is the fact that he's 23 makes me feel like he's pro-ready. And if they did have to replace Emmanuel Quickley, maybe he goes in a trade for Cat or Zach LaVine, whatever it may be, I think he could step in and give you some valuable minutes right away.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you see at the bottom of my screen, the player I compared him to is Javon Carter, who's bounced around the league. Another guard that when he came out of college was a 4-year starter, really experienced out of West Virginia, had a lot of good experience playing a lot of defense and being the ball handler for their team, similar sizes as well. And I project Sasser to be able to hit the 3 ball like Carter can. Now, you can argue Sasser is more of a developed shooter off the dribble in the mid-range. But I think Carter's play style of being the guard off the bench that will give opponents trouble with his defensive prowess, and then you combine that with being able to hit a 3 off the catch. I think Javon Carter and Sasser are very similar in a lot of ways, but I do think Sasser is slightly better in a way. He can get that mid-range and has that little teardrop floater as well, as Marsh just mentioned.
Yeah, and I think Carter is a good comp as well. I think his offense is a little bit better, but like you said, pesky defender, plays with a lot of heart. And he's kind of just that glue guy off the bench. I mean, Knicks, I feel like, have been killed by Javon Carter time and time again since he became a Milwaukee Buck. And if that's the pro that he ends up being, and maybe the Knicks get him in the mid-40s, I'd be absolutely pumped with that. This is a guy that I think has a lot of mixed feelings in NBA's circle. Dariq Whitehead, the guard out of Duke, had some injury problems, and that's really why he's falling in the NBA draft. 6'6", 193 pounds. He's 18 years old, so still a really young kid. Has that 6'10" wingspan. O'Connor has him as the 30th ranked prospect and says he's a skilled on-ball scorer and a hard-nosed defender who underwent 2 foot surgeries in recent years. My favorite stat that you showed me about him, Rolly, was 45.3% on spot-up threes this year.
Yeah, he has a really good shooting stroke, and coming out of high school, he was touted as more of a lottery pick-esque player. But you see here, he played in 28 games, 20 minutes a game, and it's really because of these foot injuries. So he had surgery prior to his freshman year at Duke. It obviously didn't go as planned because he was bothered by it all year long, and I think that really caused the issue in production for him. And then just here in the first 2 weeks of May, he had surgery on it again, and he's supposed to be ready by the 23-24 season, but that will hurt his development, his readiness to play right away. Talented guy, good frame, really good shooter. I think the talent's there. It's just the injury concern is why he's so low on draft boards rather than that 15 to 18 range. He's more of that 25 to 30.
If you had to guess on where he ends up going in this draft, it's like you've talked about. Some people have him right outside the lottery. Some people even have him as an early second-round pick. Where would you have to guess maybe the Knicks would have to trade up to get a guy like Whitehead?
I think he would have to go in that 22 to 30 range.
Okay.
Because I do think he still goes first round because the talent's there. And I compared him to Danny Green, which I think is a little bit of how he played at Duke rather than what he can potentially be with his athleticism. Because I know Marshall brought it up. He's like, he looked a lot like Andrew Wiggins in high school, and he just had the foot issues, and he was relegated to that 3-and-D role where he wasn't taking people off the dribble to the rack. He was catching and shooting, and he was very effective at it, which is why he can still go in this first round because he's shown the ability to be a really good three-point shooter off the catch, which obviously teams covet in the NBA. So I think the talent's there, and if he was fully healthy, I think he would go late lottery, early teens. But because of the injury, I think he goes to the late 20s. Yeah,
and I mean, as Rolly and I both know, and you guys watching this video, the Knicks have to get better as a three-point shooting team. And like we showed, Whitehead is one of the best shooters in this draft. If you get a Danny Green on this team, defense and shooting, and I think he's got a little of athleticism, sneaky. Obviously the injuries, holding him back a little bit. But I wouldn't be mad at all if Whitehead is the pick. But is there somebody that you want the New York Knicks to select. We got 4 more players, then 10 different draft workout guys to talk about. But I want to hear from you. Name a player you want the Knicks to trade into the NBA draft to select down in the comment section. Rolly, I know this is one of your, I would call them Rolly's rollers in this draft. My guy,
like
Ben
that.
Shephard, the guard, another sharpshooter, 6'5", 194 pounds, almost 22 years old, which we kind of see the ageisms and the ageists come out in the NBA draft. But a 6'8" wingspan at 6'5", 34th ranked player by KOC, who calls him a sharpshooter with a knack for movement, who shows on-ball flashes thanks to his playmaking roots.
Yeah, and I really like what Ben Shephard has shown, and I think I'm a little higher on him than others are, but I really like his shooting ability. If you've watched his highlights at Belmont, he's got a really clean shooting stroke, and it's very fluent and easy, and in the length there is very impressive as well. As you mentioned, Marsh, he also can play defense. Now, the only concern I would have for him is the step up in competition.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not playing a good conference. He was obviously at Belmont, but 6'5", 6'8" wingspan, a lot of production. I wrote it down in my notes. This kid screams, how did blank team get Shepherd in the late first, early second? Because I think he could come in and be a difference maker right away with three-point shooting. I mean, you shoot 41.5%.
6 attempts per night, too.
Like, it's not like it's low volume. He's getting them up because he was the main scorer for Belmont, and he's shooting at an efficient level. And I know Knicks fans might love this, and my player comp for him is Quentin Grimes. He's got the shooting ability. He's got the quick release, the smooth release that Quentin Grimes has. And then, like I said, with that frame, he can play defense. He will obviously have to get better at it. Grimes is a better defender, but I think that is his comp, and he can be that guy who steps in, he's a 3-and-D 2 guard that can splash some threes off a contender's bench right away.
And that's what you need in the NBA. You need these guys that can be successful without the ball. I'd like to see Grimes become better of an off-ball mover in between screens, and obviously that's a spot that Shepherd can get better at. But look, if you're telling me I can get another Quentin Grimes in the late first, early second, sign me up. The dude's just a winning basketball player. So we've talked about a couple of guards in today's show. Let's switch to a forward. Keyontae Johnson out of Kansas State, really popular name. Unfortunately, has had some health concerns in his college career, forced him to move around. 6'4", 240 pounds. Got a lot of weight on him. 23 years old. Rolling crazy. 6'4", 7-foot wingspan, a burly wing with baseline skills to be a solid role player. Plus, a wiggly game off the dribble. What's up with Keyontae Johnson?
Yeah, you mentioned the frame, and it's actually a very rare frame to see. I mean, he's 6'4", with a 7-foot wingspan, so those arms are lengthy. And then you add in being 240 pounds, so you're asking yourself, what position does he fit in the NBA with those size and measurables? He's too small to be a 4. He has the length to be a 4, but his height will probably hold him back. The weight can be at the 4, so I project him to be more of a 3, a small 3, and I know the comparison I'm going to bring up in a second isn't going to make any sense there, but Keyontae Johnson has a really good three-point game. He's got a nice stroke, shot 48.5% from 3. He was really good in the mid-range too. He could take people off the dribble, and that's why people have said to me when I've brought up this player comp of Obi Toppin that it doesn't make any sense because he does have a nice little isolation bag and he can put moves on defenders. But I think in the NBA, he doesn't have the handles enough to do that. So like Obi Toppin, will be relegated to be that 3-and-D little small ball 4, maybe big 3 that Obi Toppin has become. And another thing that I think is very similar between these two players is Keyontae Johnson's athleticism is off the charts. He can be a skywalker. He can go above the rim, catch lobs in transition. He could throw down a highlight dunk. So just like Obi Toppin, I really think that's how his play style would be in the NBA.
Do you think it's because of the age, 23 years old, obviously the health scares as well, as why Johnson is really being mocked as a late to mid second rounder?
Yeah, I actually do, because if he was
say he's 18 years old, no health scares.
If he was a freshman putting up those numbers, he'd be going in the top 10.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest here. I mean, 6'4", 7-foot wingspan, averaging 17 points on 40% shooting from 3 and 50% from the field. I don't care how you play, you're going to be a top 10 pick if you're 18 years old. So ageism might be coming into a factor there, Marsh. I won't be lying to you.
We got another interesting draft prospect that a lot of you guys have asked me about. We'll talk about him former top player in college and high school coming out. But first, make sure you guys are not only subscribed to the channel, but have your notifications turned on, because since Knicks Now has been absolutely crushing it, thanks to the real ones out there, we're going to be going live on the channel for all 58 picks of the 2023 NBA draft. So if you're looking for draft coverage, entertaining, informative, with a little bit of a Knicks twist as well, make sure you guys join us on Thursday. Seeps will be the producer on that. And also on our main Chat Sports channel, you can join Roley, Chase, and Harrison over there. Chat Sports, we're going to be your #1 NBA draft coverage live here on YouTube. Let's close out the top 5 with another polarizing player in this draft, Emoni Bates. Roley, this is one of the most intriguing draft prospects I think we've seen and really have evaluated in a really long time. Look, #1 recruit in high school. A lot of people compared him to Kevin Durant. And then the road got a little bit, curvy, I guess you could say. Committed to Michigan State, then decommitted, reclassified, went to Memphis, transferred to East Michigan, had some off-the-court stuff. He was hit with a misdemeanor gun charge. What do you make of Emoni Bates? Maybe not off the court, but strictly on the court as a player.
When you look at Emoni Bates, the offensive talent is there. Now, the efficiency is not, and I think that is mostly because he was a shot jacker for Eastern Michigan in this past season. He got up 16 shots a game, and almost half of them were three-pointers. So the guy likes to pull from deep. Now, the shot form is pretty, but the one concern with him, there's really two main concerns. Actually, let's make it 3 while we're getting on to it. One is his basketball IQ/shot selection. It's not good, and he struggles defensively, knowing where his man is. He gets caught ball watching a lot, and that's a main issue. #2, he has short arms, so he can't really defend. It helps him get off quick shots as a taller player, but he can't really defend shots because he has a very short wingspan. He's a 6'7" guy, and he has a 6'8" or 6'8", 6'9" wingspan.
Yeah, 6'8", 6'9" wingspan, 179 pounds.
And that was #3 on my concern list, is that 179 pounds. If you're going to be that tall and that skinny, you're just going to be absolutely bullied on the defensive end. I don't really see a way, unless he puts on 20 pounds, where he can be a real difference maker for this team. And honestly, my player comp for him is kind of like Kevin Porter Jr., which is a little bit odd, Marsh.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I know he's taller. I know he plays a different style of basketball, but the way he jacks, isn't the smartest guy, doesn't have good IQ, doesn't defend. I kind of see him as a KPJ guy.
This gives me Cam Reddish vibes yet again. I mean, we were talking about in the Chat Sports too. If you just saw this guy hooping at the park, you're like, he's going to be a #1 pick in the NBA draft. But talent has never been the problem with Cam, and it's never really been the problem with him as well. Maybe some team finds a diamond in the rough in the second round, but I think it's going to take a lot of – you're going to have to develop him, and he's got to mature, and I think he's got to put some weight on. I think 179 pounds, maybe 10 or 15 of those are as water weight as well. Look, the talent's there for Bates, but will he put it all together? Maybe the Knicks, take a flyer on the kid, and, maybe he plays for the G League, Westchester Knicks in year 1, and maybe he's a developmental player. He's going to be an interesting story to watch in the NBA draft, no doubt about it. Another guy that I know you're a big fan of as well is Isaiah Wong, the guard out of Miami. Could the Knicks trade into the late second round to select Wong? We even talked, you said it before the show, you heard some guys saying Wong may even be an undrafted player, and that's a spot the Knicks could really swoop in and go and select a guy who shot 38.4% from downtown last year for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I love Isaiah Wong, and if you watch the March Madness run that him and the Hurricanes went on, you can tell that he is just a bucket getter. I mean, he's a 4-year player at Miami. He was ACC Player of the Year this past year. He was 3-time All-ACC in his 4 years there, so he's an effective player. He was able to lead that Miami team to a lot of success, Elite 8 last year, Final 4 this year. So Isaiah Wong has been the leading man on a winning college basketball team over the past couple of years. Has a really pretty shot stroke. He has a good wingspan.
Good size. 6 foot 378 pounds, 6'7" wingspan.
Yeah, I mean 6'3", 6'7" wingspan. That really allows him to elevate and get his shots over his opponents. He has a good mid-range game. And here's another little tidbit here. Knockdown shooter who made 40% of his spot-up threes this year. 39% of his 2-point and 3-point dribble jumpers, so he's effective off the dribble as well. I really like Isaiah Wong's offensive game. We'll need to work on his defense, but he does have those measurables to pan out as a potential defensive player, and that's why my player comp for him is Grayson Allen. Maybe Grayson Allen's a little bit of a better athlete when it comes to vertical-wise, but the three-point shooting is similar to Allen's. The ability to grind and project maybe as a defensive player that can help slow down some wings and guards on the perimeter. I really like Isaiah Wong's game here, Marsh, and I think he could be another one of those guys that, even if he goes undrafted, could make the roster and can get some minutes as the 8th, 9th, 10th man on this Knicks team next year.
Do you see him more as an on-ball guard or more of an off-ball guard?
I see him as an off-ball, and he has the talent to be on-ball, but if you do watch that Miami team, he was the 2-3 combo, and Nigel Pack was the really point guard for that Miami team, and they would get sets, and Wong would work in the flow of the offense to get his isolation jumpers and buckets off the dribble, but it's not like he was catching it and bringing it up 94 feet and then going right into it. He was able to do it in the flow of his offense and really play as a 2-3.
Yeah, and I like the size. 6'3", 6'7" wingspan. He's not going to be a liability necessarily at that two-guard spot. And look, one of my favorite stats is catch and shoot. If you can catch and knock down shots, you will have a spot in the NBA. So those are the top 6 guys Rolly and I came up with as players we would like to see the Knicks go up and trade for. We thought they fit schematically and kind of the timeline. But the Knicks have worked out a couple of players going into the NBA draft despite not having a pick. The reports that I've seen, they've worked out 10 different guys. Dane Goodwin out of Notre Dame, Kylin Moore, Justin Mutz, Craig Porter Jr., Justin Powell, Antonio Reeves, Terry Roberts, Isaiah Sanders, our guy Sanogo, maybe my guy. I'm a big fan of Sanogo. I think he's going to have an NBA career. And then KJ Williams. He's gotten a lot of buzz from Knicks fans. Roy, is there anyone or maybe a couple of guys on this list that you would like the Knicks to pursue?
Yes, Sanogo would be interesting. And Marsh, refresh my memory here. Is Hartenstein, or obviously Mitchell Robinson on the roster, is Hartenstein a free agent?
So Hartenstein will be back this year. He's a free agent next year. And you still got Jericho Sims. So I don't know if you necessarily need a big like Sanogo, but maybe you trade Mitch Rob, and he's that third developmental center off the bench. I mean, I could see Tibbs loving a guy like Sanogo with the offensive and defensive rebounding that he brings.
I mean, Sanogo is an absolute dog in the paint. He got that nice little post hook. He's able to dominate other defenders that he went up against in college. Obviously, the leading man on that UConn national title team. But I see a lot of Kevon Looney in Sanogo, the way he fights for rebounds and can easily average double-digit rebounds right away. The offensive game needs to be more polished, for sure, to make a difference outside of just easy layups and dunks. And I don't really like how quick he is defensively, but he can absolutely eat on the glass. And one guy I'll quickly mention here is Justin Mutz, forward from Virginia Tech. Another Tom Thibodeau guy, in my opinion. Good defender, gritty guy. He's an absolute dog. I think he would fight and grind just like Tom Thibodeau likes his players.
Hey, sometimes you got to find a diamond in the rough. And maybe, the Knicks have been a pretty good drafting team so far. Quickly was late in round 1. Grimes was late in round 2. Mitchell Robinson was early in round 2 as well. So maybe they find another stud on this team that can come out of the later rounds, or maybe a UDFA. It's going to be interesting, no doubt about it. I want the Knicks to get a pick, though. I want them to trade into the draft, do something. You want to keep those rookie contracts fresh, and without drafting a rookie last year in the first round, you had Trevor Keels, so you have one rookie contract there, but I'd like to kind of get another guy under control for maybe 3 or 4 years, but we'll see. But if you want the Knicks to trade for a draft pick in this year's class, hit that thumbs up icon right now. The more likes we get, the more likely it's going to happen. It's pretty much a fact at this point. As always, I want to say thank you, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Knicks Now by Chat Sports. Remember, subscribe and turn your noties on, and join us this Thursday for coverage of every single pick of the NBA Draft.